We talk about identity. It's the suppression of British culture. That if we are of all cultures, Pete, that means we are cultureless. Okay? And if we're cultureless, that means we have no identity, right? And then the process starts. When we have a lack of identity, which I had when I left the military, confusion. This is where it starts off. You get confused. Where do I belong? Where's my purpose? Frustration is the next thing from confusion. Confusion, frustration, anger, violence. And I say this from a psychological standpoint of how I understand people. And this process is really, really important to understand that lack of identity leads to that process. And we are in the anger, teetering into the violent stage of that process. We're way down the line now with society out there. And I think is a great point that you raise. Identity is huge. We have an identity crisis.
Morning, Ant.
Morning, Pete.
How you doing?
I'm always good, mate. Never a dull moment in my life, mate.
It doesn't appear so. Right. I want to talk to you about, there's a lot to talk about. But you've lived a whole side of life I haven't, with your training, with the army, with the Marines, etc. So I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to talk about violence with you. Mm-hmm. And I saw this quote that came up on my Twitter, so I want to read it to you.
Go.
See what it means to you. Mate. Okay. True peace is not the absence of violence, but the mastery of it. And I thought about it for it was sat with me all day. What does that mean to you?
Violence creates freedom, believe it or not. Yeah, the history books will tell you that. The conflicts will tell you that. Fear is a great tool to implement control, and control to implement peace. People want to be controlled in a bizarre type of way. You know, they want to be told what to do, where to go to a certain extent. So violence is needed. It's essential in today's world, and past lives. You look back decades, it's always existed, but it's always been done in the shadows. I think they're two separate worlds. Well, I know that they're two separate worlds, and the ability to call upon violence. Violence is just undisciplined aggression. When you teeter into the violent stage, there's no controlled violence. People talk about, controlled violence. There's controlled aggression. But once you hit that violence, that's undisciplined aggression. It's kill or be killed. You go into a state of mind and a state flow if you have to consistently be in that headspace where you literally walk that line of life or death. There's no grey areas here. There's no complications. There's no bullshit that sits in between. It's either, you take a step to the left, you're going to live, take a step to the right, you're going to die. And ultimately, violence equals euphoria. And this is what I realized in the military. When you're consistently in that mindset of extreme violence, at first it's adrenaline that gets you through, the adrenaline drive that gets you through. But once you learn how to harness that adrenaline, it becomes euphoria. And let me sort of break that down for you. When I was point man in the military, the first time I was up against that door, ready to get, a high value target, whatever it may be. It was, the adrenaline that got me through the door, my drills and skills, and then, room clear, take a deep breath, right, the room's clear, we're safe, right, now let's go to the next door. Adrenaline, boom, 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 in, room clear, you're in and out of it. But because you're experiencing violence, extreme violence, on a constant state of flow, you learn how to harness that. So you learn how to harness that adrenaline to the point where it becomes euphoric. And what I mean by that, the euphoria side is me having done multiple kinetic tours. violent tours, multiple violent missions where that extreme violence, I've learned to really, really harness it and control it to the point where when I go through that door towards the back end of my missions, everything slows down. I know how to harness it. I know exactly what I'm going to feel when I'm going to get to that door. I know exactly how I'm going to move. I know exactly how the enemy's going to react when I'm punching through that door, because I've been there. I've taken multiple layers off. I'm talking about 50, 60, 70 layers off. I'm in that constant state of flow. And everything slows down to the point where you think you can control time. It's so euphoric. It's the ultimate peace. And what I mean by the ultimate peace is it's so uncomplicated. It's the rawest and purest form of life. And there's two options. You're going to live or you're going to die. So a lot of people think that I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I'm not. I chase that feeling of euphoria, of being able to control time, control my body. Your body's functioning. It's synchronizing every single cell, every single ligament, every single muscle, every single fiber within you is firing at exactly the same time. It's perfect harmony. It's a perfect state of mind and a perfect state flow that the body experiences once you do it consistently. It's not just a case of, when people say, oh, my life flashed in front of me because I was in a car crash or, one incident in their lives, but then they never revisit that. They never want to. They go, I never want to be in that state of mind again, or in that situation again. I've been forced to be in that situation time and time and time and time again. And if you don't make it work for you, it will kill you. It will be the end of you. So going back to your question, and I know I answered it in a long, long way, but I think it was a great question to start off with. Violence is necessary. And once you learn how to ultimately sort of move with it, you can't really control it. You move with it, you harness it. Then, that's what creates peace. That's what wins wars. That's why you have the right to vote. That's why you have the right to a trial, to a fair judgment. That's why you have a right to walk the streets and, do what you do, is because violent men predominantly give you that freedom.
And so do you think people don't necessarily understand that? They can't critically think about those ideas, and hence why I think one thing where we'll agree on the moment, the UK isn't particularly where either of us would want it to be.
I don't think people should. That's a unique job to do. Takes a unique individual. You've got the best in the world that go through this process and they come out with PTSD. The most finely tuned operators, the most finely tuned minds, the most, physically robust machines that just break down because this pressure, this uncontrolled aggression or undisciplined aggression just takes over, and their minds can't deal with it, their bodies can't deal with it. So, it doesn't belong in society. Violence does not belong in society. Aggression, however, that's a different category. That's sort of like coming down a peg or two. There's aggression, there's extreme aggression, and from extreme aggression, you teeter into violence. So aggression definitely needed. Violence, why?
Mastery, going back to the mastery of it.
The mastery of it. Yeah, and do you ever master it? Every situation is different. Every sort of situation just changes at the flick of a switch. 1 minute you might be hitting a room and there's women and children in there. Then the next, you're flicking, boom, you're flicking that switch over to extreme violence. And that's what we're taught to do. When I left the military and I found myself in prison after 6 months due to a violent situation or an aggressive situation, it wasn't violent because I was sort of in control. I realized that when I went to prison and I sat down and I analyzed everything, I debriefed myself about everything. I don't overanalyze, I don't overthink, I just why am I in here? Right, because you're extremely aggressive. Right, break that down. So in the military, I was taught and trained that if someone was aggressive to me, I counter aggression with extreme aggression. That's how I come out on top. If you're aggressive to me on the battlefield, I'll counter that with extreme aggression. I'll go into code red. Okay? Violence, exactly the same. If you're violent to me, I will counter violence with extreme violence. That's how I will come out on top. That's how I will live. That's how I live to fight another day, which is extremely important because I'm an asset. I'm a team member. I don't want to be a burden and, be injured or dead. So there's the whole sense of pride behind this violence as well. And I just realized, I'm in Civvy Street now. There's zero tolerance to violence. I don't need to be violent. Cut violence out your life. Boom. Don't need to do it. Aggression, however, I was like, do I need to be in that code red aggression? No. What in society, lends its hand for me to get into that code red where I'm like a dog on a bloodlust and I'm just about to teeter into that undisciplined sort of aggression. I don't need to do that either. But aggression is a great tool because aggression has got me up mountains. It's got me through certain situations. It's, got me business deals. It's got me through certain situations in the media, where they've come at me. I love aggression. And when aggression is used correctly, it can be a very, very handy and powerful tool that can work to your advantage. However, I've just cut extreme violence, code red aggression out of my life and violence out of my life. So when I look back on society, I'm like, actually, violence isn't needed. You don't need to teeter into that. However, you need to unleash the beast. It's better to unleash the beast and pull the beast in than to not have the beast released ever at all.
Some of your tweets would imply slightly different from that.
Mm-hmm.
Some
go
people,
ahead, go on. Tell me how you interpret them.
So no, because I can empathize with it. Like you talk about being ready. I haven't got the exact tweets in front of me, but like ready for war, ready for.
I've never said that.
I'd have to go. No, I don't have the exact words, but there are certain things. Do you know what I mean?
To gather the masses.
Yeah.
Yeah, gather the masses. Absolutely. We need to unite and we need to gather the masses in order to get our voices heard, in order for people to really stand up, be seen, be heard. And we've done that. And I say we, Tommy, along with, a few other people that normalize that movement. I like to think that as Ant Middleton, as a motivator, as a former special forces operator, as a patriot, that I joined the freedom of speech rally to really help Tommy steer clear or have that far right sort of analogy. When they look at me, they go, Ant's not far right, he's served his country. There's a few politicians and a few celebrities. Let's call myself a celebrity, even though I hate that word, because I certainly don't fit in a room full of celebrities. But we sort of normalize that movement from a far right movement to a freedom of speech rally, to a festival, actually look at the people that are there. They're not far right. You can call us far right if you want, but people with their head screwed on or with a switched on mindset, which a lot of actual politicians done, they were like, no, that was just British people coming together of all cultures, of all backgrounds, of all ethnicities. They come together and they want their voices to be heard. So this is why I'm very careful with what I say on X, because I don't want to create division and hate. I want to create division and hate between the extremists that don't respect our culture, that don't respect our way of life, that want to create division and hate within our British culture. But I want to unite the people that want to be here, the people that are proud, even if they're not British, the people that are proud of this country for what it's given them, whether it's a job, whether it's a roof over their heads, whether it's food on the table, to people to go, thank you. This is why I came here. This is what, this is why I'm thriving and why I can be a family man and look after my family. They're the people that I want to unite. But predominantly we are in a situation right now where we need to focus on us. We need to be super selfish right now. We need to focus on Brits, British citizens, British natives. We need to really go back and go, do you know what? God, these people that are now ultimately, second-class citizens to illegal immigrants coming in, to veterans sleeping on the streets, the list could go on.
That hotel thing must piss you off more than most people with veterans who are sleeping on the streets.
It's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I know if I teeter into the aggression which I feel when I see this, then I know that I'm just falling into their trap.
Is it always there, though?
It's not so much aggression. It's mine's comes a layer down. It's frustration, because what you do, there's a process to violence, okay? And it starts off with confusion, all right? You get lack of identity, suppressed culture, right? But if we're a multicultural country, that multiculturalism, it's not even a word. That means nothing. We're a British cultured country, yet with a diverse cultured society. Okay, very important that you realise that British culture. Guess what sits in our British culture? Our law and order. Our principles, values, and morals. That's what the umbrella's there. It will protect you. It will help you. It will shelter you. It will provide for you. You step into the rain, law and order. No matter your background, your religious beliefs, your cultural beliefs. You step into the rain, you're going to get wet. And guess what? You're gonna know it. It doesn't happen like that. But that's why that structure is so important, because in order, once that's in place, then law and order naturally filters under that. And this is the problem. We're not in a religious war. We're not in a bloody what's the word I'm looking for?
Cultural war?
No, because it's law and order and culture. So it's not actually religion or race. So it's got nothing to do with religion and race. It's culture and law and order.
I think there's another one.
Go.
I think it's money.
Money. Yeah, yeah, of course.
Because money affects everybody.
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah.
And even the most kindest leftists I know, some of them are starting to break ranks and say, hold on a second, I've got no money left at the end of the month. I haven't had a pay rise in 2 years. The government cannot manage a budget. Rachel Reeves is borrowing more than ever after the Conservatives did the same. I think we both probably feel let down by the Conservatives. I think we have an issue of identity. I think we have an issue with money, identity, and culture.
100%.
And law and order is downstream from that for me, in that where we live in Bedford.
It's identity, right? You just hit it, right? Identity. So why do we lack identity? Why do you think we lack identity, Pete?
Well, I think that's subjective to who you are. Some people, because it's, I think for a young man, it could have been feminized out of them. It could have been shamed out of them. I think if you're a white male, you've been called a racist. I mean, I've been called far-right and fascist all the time, and I'm nothing like that. But I also think, the history of Britain has been dug up.
What's British culture to you? If you go right back to British culture, what would you say British culture is? If I say to you, Africa, and you had to say, what culture would you say?
Again, I think it's always subjective to the person, though. So for me, British culture, I'm a second generation immigrant. My dad's Irish. Welcoming to his family, moved up to Blackburn. His dad got a job. My dad's done very well, worked hard, and created a great life for us. So I say we are a welcoming, tolerant country. And that's part of our culture.
But go back to the beginning.
But our culture was, we were leaders.
Correct.
We're leaders of the world. Explorers.
Adventurers.
Inventors.
Leaders. Inventors. Extreme problem solvers. Construction trailblazers. Educators. You go back. And do you know where that all stems back from? If you go right back to British culture. And this is why I said, when I say Africa, Africa's black culture. Go right back to British culture. And this pisses off a lot of people, and I'm just stating facts. It's white culture. White culture is something that's been completely eradicated from British culture. The death by 1,000 cuts, right? Even before I was born, growing up in the 80s and 90s, never did I hear, what's white culture? That whole thing was already gone. You cannot say that you're a proud white man. It's like, but you look back on our British culture is British history. Look back on our history, it's white culture. And again, you go back to explorers, you go back to adventurers, you go back to innovators, you go back to educators, extreme problem solvers. You know, we built most of the world. You know, that's who we are. That bit's been cut off. Next, what they're after is our faith. You know, we're a Christian country. And I don't care what you say. You look back on our history, which is British culture. Our law and order is intertwined with Christianity. Our calendar year, Easter, Christmas, intertwined with Christianity. Now, you don't have to be religious, Pete, okay, to believe that Christian principles, morals, and values are just. They work. They're fair. They give us freedom, and they've worked for the last 1,000 to 2,000 years. Okay, and I'm talking about it made a flourishing, thriving society up to 20, 25 years ago. Okay, and we talk about identity. It's the suppression of British culture. That if we are of all cultures, Pete, that means we are cultureless. Okay? And if we're cultureless, that means we have no identity, right? And then the process starts. When we have a lack of identity, which I had when I left the military, confusion. This is where it starts off. You get confused. Where do I belong? Where's my purpose? Frustration is the next thing from confusion. Confusion, frustration, anger, violence. And I say this from a sort of psychological standpoint of how I understand people. And this process is really, really important to understand that lack of identity. It's enough now, they're after me.
Yeah.
That lack of identity leads to that process. And we are in the anger, teetering into the violent stage of that process. We're way down the line now with society out there. And I think is a great point that you raise. Identity is huge. We have an identity crisis. Our culture's being suppressed all the way from our white culture, which I'm super proud of. You know, you look at I'm an adventurer, I'm an explorer, and when I look at the people that mapped out this world, like your Columbuses and your Blighs, you know, your Captain Bligh, you look at them and you go, whoa, you know, that fascinates me. But you know, we daren't go there because that's already eradicated. That's gone. The next thing is going to be our faith, our beliefs, our values. I'm Catholic. You know, I was baptized. I was christened. I was confirmed. My children have been as well. I've veered a lot towards Christianity in the recent years because, you know, I've really studied the man himself. You know, Jesus Christ, and I just love his attitude. I love the way that he you know brought his demeanor, his way of thinking. I thought is really, really advanced, you know, for his time. And I just think that's next. That's going next, right? You can see it going. Even with Christmas, Easter, you can't buy a fucking Easter egg nowadays without having holiday egg. Holiday. But it's the same with Christmas. What is it? The festive period. It's like that's going next, and then you know this whole multiculturalism is like whoa. Listen, that word doesn't even exist. Let's reinstall our British culture umbrella. Within that, it will preserve our law and order. And if we preserve our law and order, which has been compromised, in turn we preserve life, British lives. Because we don't teeter off into this two-tiering, oh, but this is okay in their culture.
But this is okay. Religion, not this.
So this is why this structure is so important, Pete. It's so important to read because it will, if you get this structure right from the top, everything else will fall back into place. Don't try and build from here up. This has got to be reinstalled. And let's call it a British cultured umbrella, which in turn will preserve British law and order, which will in turn preserve British lives, which we see being taken every single day on our streets.
The humble bee, a keystone species crucial to the survival of Earth's inhabitants. Here's how things would look if bees vanished. And here's how they'd look if humans vanished. But imagine if instead we became a keystone species by doing things the right way, by taking responsibility for our actions and becoming the solution. Iron mines the world's most responsible currency the right way. Because the future depends on it.
Do you think this has come from a lack of discipline then? Are you able to see it as somebody who has been disciplined about their training and their job and require the discipline and a lack of discipline? I mean, I was watching one of your shows this morning where a guy just lost his number and you gave him a hard time. You asked him if he wanted his number back. He did, then he didn't. But it was the discipline around that. There's no compromise on the discipline. And do you think that's a problem that we have in this country, is that we've just lost discipline as a country, as a nation?
Yeah, discipline is a huge part of it. And just being, the hard part to discipline is being consistent with it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, because a lot of people can't do that. Discipline is doing the things that you should do, that you don't do. You should be doing them. You should be getting up half an hour earlier just to hit a walk or hit a circuit or a workout, but you don't do it. But you should be doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a great idea in your head.
But is it also to say the things that are maybe unpopular?
Yeah, I think now more than ever. I'm a super positive person. I refuse to engage with negativity. Well, actually, I lie. I do engage with negativity in order to flip it into a positive. I love, I love taking on that challenge. But we're in a day and age now, or in a time, the last couple of years, where me giving you positive quotes and speaking positively to you, people are like, Ant, are you fucking blind? Do you not see what's going on? So right now, my dialect has gone a lot more, I wouldn't say negative, a lot more truthful. When I say to people, you are not safe on the streets, travel in groups, find a way to arm yourself legally. It's like, at the moment, this is, I'm telling people this, and they're like, wow, if Ant's gone from his, hey, stay positive, guys, the world's, you'll find your way through it, or whatever it may be.
But that's not a negative.
No, it's not a negative.
It's just, it's honest.
It's needed.
Yes.
There's a time to really step up and tell. The people are just fed up of being fucking lied to. Yeah. Right? They are. Then again, they get lied to. They frustrate into frustration. There's no confusion. They're frustrated straight away. Anger, violence, that whole thing. And the more you lie to people, the more that frustration then flicks into anger, into violence, and accountability as well. You talk about discipline. Accountability is the key to it derives from discipline. If you are disciplined, you can hold yourself accountable and be honest with yourself and go, do you know what? Actually, I messed up there. I didn't get this right. For example, Sadiq Khan being questioned. And he instead of going, do you know what? We do have a problem. I know exactly what you're talking about, Susan. We do have a problem with grooming gangs in London. It's been going on for a while. We're going to do absolutely everything in our power to make sure that we eradicate this problem. Not try and solve that. As zero tolerance to this behaviour in my city. But then when he's sort of, I don't know what you're talking about. He's almost condoning that behaviour. He's almost giving people free rein to go out and sexually abuse people and rape people and even murder people. Right? It's to laugh that off and go, I don't know what you're talking about. To play dumb with children's lives, young British girls' lives. Let's call it as it is. Mm-hmm. Young white British girls' lives. Let's go even further. Let's call it a spade, a fucking spade. When that happens, that's when I'm like, because I'm thinking, if I was in your chair and you told me that, I'd be like that. What? This is going, even if I didn't know about it, but this is going, I'm going to find out. I'd be straight to the superintendent and the Metropolitan Police going, what is happening here? However, he cannot do that because of the whole inclusivity
political
correctness, diversity and inclusion policies that they've spent billions on over the last 20, 25 years, that project cannot be seen to fail. One, because they've spent billions of taxpayers' money to make it happen. Two, because they think that this multicultural idea, this new narrative of multiculturalism is the fantasy world that they live in. It's a failed concept.
So people don't want to admit they're wrong.
But
it's really hard.
Discipline, going back to discipline, right? Going back to discipline and accountability. It's
really hard. Some people find it really hard to say sorry to their children or their partner, let alone a nation. Like, I fucked up. I got this wrong.
But you're going to fuck up to the day you die. Yeah. You know, this is failure, right? A lot of people are scared of failure. One, if they see a project that they think is going to fail, then they won't take it on. Two, that fear of failure. If I fail, I become a failure, right? People are petrified of that. But failure is everyday part of life, right? You're going to fail, Pete, to the day you die. I failed up to now, and I'm going to fail to the day I die. Hopefully, less and less on a smaller scale, because I live, I learn, I evolve. I've got a bit more knowledge, a bit more wisdom, and I know how to make failure work to my advantage. But the moment you shy away from it is the moment that accountability has a huge dent in it. Oof, yeah, I can't say that I've actually failed at this. And then discipline, going back to what you said about discipline, that's when discipline just goes out the window.
But if you go to Silicon Valley to raise money,
if
you want to make a startup, and you're going to raise millions and millions of dollars or pounds, one of the things they want to know, what were your failures and what did you learn from it?
Yeah.
They know. Because they understand the market, they understand money, they understand investment. They want to know your failures. You know, you want your kids to fail. And what did you learn from it?
Yeah,
what did you change not to do it again?
Yeah, you want to give them enough rope so they trip up on, and you know, but you're there at their side. They trip up, hypothetically graze their knee, and you go, "What route would you take now, son?" You know, it's like, "Oh, I'd go." You know, yes, exactly. I'm here behind you. Obviously, you won't give them enough rope to, you know, hypothetically hang themselves, but you give them enough rope to trip up on through life. If you don't make mistakes in life, mate, you don't make anything.
But that's where we have this kind of weird paradox in life, in that there's a part of society that wants us to be sympathetic and empathetic to every one of their mistakes, but
we are anyway.
But also, if you put your head up there, if you say, I'm going to run for mayor, they're going to find a mistake of yours and they're going to hit you with it daily. Here you go. What about this? And so there's like,
I don't. But
what I'm saying, you're fine. You got the discipline. You're okay with this. I am. Yeah. I've thought about running for office. I've had the conversations. But I have a past. But no, and I might. But I have a past in drugs. It's going to come up. You know, I had a drug addiction. I lied on a mortgage application once.
Fucking hell, you're human.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
But that is one, I think, one of the battles of now, which is quite interesting in the world of politics, is there is a battle between the imperfect and the perfect. And I think it's shifting. I think people want the imperfect because it allows them to be imperfect.
People want progression.
Yeah.
Right? Because the perfection doesn't exist. And this is where I come in and I really see myself. And I think this is key time. I think the timing couldn't be better. Politicians are so divided from the grassroots survivors and thrivers. Yeah. Like us. Okay, maybe I'm in a lot better financial position than I was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and maybe I can teeter into both worlds. Absolutely, I can, but I can't ignore the grassroots that I've come from. I can't ignore when I joined the military at the age of 17. I can't ignore, the shit that I've been through when I've been in prison. I can't ignore the failures that I've had. That everyday human survivor and thriver makes. Even politicians, which they have a very good thing of hiding it and locking it away and not holding themselves accountable. But this is where I come in, mate. So I very much see myself as the mediator between the grassroots and the politicians. Yeah, I can sit down with a table full of politicians. I've sat down with Nigel, I've sat down with Zia, I've sat down with key politicians. I can sit down with these people and I can talk sense from a grassroots perspective. And vice versa. This is what's really important. It's actually taking this political sort of spill and this political agenda, dissecting it in a way that people understand it. So when I talk about restoring our British culture, our identity, it's so important because, it puts our law and order to account. It then preserves life. Multiculturalism doesn't exist. If we're multicultural, that means we're of all cultures. We've got no culture, we've got no identity. People understand that, but politicians don't speak like that. So people are actually gagging. That's why I said do it, run for office. For people like us to actually fucking step up and go, do you know what? I'm going to be the mediator here for the people. I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to bring what you tell me and how I see you, because I see them, I hear them, I hear the screams, I hear their chant, their desperate calls for help, and being that mediator in the middle, what I can give them at the moment is hope, right?
So is it a duty? Do you see it as a duty?
Yes, it's a service.
It's a service.
It's a return to service, mate.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. I had a conversation last night. I sat down in 40 Dover Street with a lawyer, a barrister. He said, Anne, why did you want to come back and dive into politics? I earn my brand, I earn a 7-figure annual salary quite comfortably. I've been earning that for the last 7 years. That's my brand value. I never earn under that, Worst case scenario, I'll always take £1 million home a year. That's comfortable. I can do that probably with my eyes shut. That's my brand value that I've built up. I said, well, why do you want to go back? You live a lovely life. Your children are, my children have got beautiful schools. They're loving life. I feel like I'm really providing as a father and as a husband. And why do you want to, jump into this shit pit? Why do you want to jump into? And my exact reply is, it's my duty to serve. I remember when I signed. And I remember it's clear as day. And I think, and I was a bit shocked after when I spoke to a few people. Let me take you back to that moment when I signed my oath, when I joined the military at the age of 17, just turned 17. I actually signed up at 16, back end of 16, and then joined when I was 17. And I signed the oath, put my hand on the Bible, swore to the oath, swore to protect Queen at the time and country. And I can remember when I signed away and we were in a room and all saying our oath and reading it, putting our hand up. And when I signed, this sense of pride as a 17-year-old. I remember it so vividly. And I was just like, what a responsibility. I'm serving my Queen and my country. Patriotism just, woof. And I remember after that, and I was a bit sort of not let down, but I was saying to the guy, oh, that was amazing. And they're like, what was amazing? And I was like, just signing that. Did you not feel goosebumps? And they're like, they were just going through the motions and, but that moment of, I always go back to that and I think to myself, wow. And I had that goosebump moment again when I decided, you know what, I'm going to run, because rather than serve my Queen and country, now I'm going to serve my capital and my people. This is a whole different category now. I've sort of suppressed this community, and I feel like it's a lot more manageable. I feel like it's a lot more feasible. I feel like I'm not just a cog here. Now that cog has grown throughout my career, but now I can I'm ready to penetrate London. I'm ready to really, really make a change and to prioritise our culture, to prioritise our capital city, and to prioritise the people within it, whether they're visitors, whether they're citizens, whether they're looking to work there. I just feel this sense to serve. And I said this to my wife, and she's so supportive. She's the backbone of our family. I said this to my wife, and she said, I'm not going to convince you. She said, I haven't seen that look in your eyes since you went to Afghanistan. That's what she said to me, because I was, just gagging to get out to Afghanistan. I get back and I'm just like, I need to get back out there. And why? Because they're out there, Emily. I need to get, if they're out there, I need to be there. And I've been trained to the highest order. I'm in my head, I'm a shit hot operator. I'm a point man. I'm first man through the door. I believe no one can do that job better than me. So why are other people putting their lives at risk and maybe not wanting to do that job? Get me out there, right? And it's exactly the same when it comes to London. It's just like, right. And the sacrifice that I'm making, and, you know, and again, it goes back to making the sacrifice of giving the ultimate sacrifice for Queen and country. I still feel that same sacrifice now, because I'm going to have to sacrifice a lot in order to take this position.
Well, so you're going from in the army where you were risking your life, now you're going to risk your way of life.
Absolutely.
And I've had a similar conversation with my girlfriend recently. On my birthday, we went out, and she was saying, "Why do you want to do it?" It's similar. I'm a couple of years older than you, probably similar-ish financial position. Don't need to do this. And she was saying to me, "Why?" I was like, "I don't think you understand. In some ways, it's like a burden on me, and I feel a duty." And I said, "I kind of feel like I don't have a choice, because if not me, who?" So what is that saying? If not me, who?
And I know that there's no better person to do this from a leadership standpoint, because people are like, yeah, but you're not a politician. I'm like, that's one of the things I need to do, is strip politics out of that position. You know, the Metropolitan Police are being used as a political tool.
Yep.
Our law and order, you know, political tool. Our justice system is, you know, it's all coming out of London. Let's be honest. Where's it coming out of? Where's the example city of the UK? What did everyone look to? London.
Fix London, fix the country. Are you thinking that's London becomes the signal?
100% it does.
Yeah.
100% it does.
And when you don't need the money.
Yeah. That's it. I don't need the money. It's
like when you said earlier, you said violence and freedom. Like having fuck you money puts you in a position where you don't have to compromise your values, because a lot of these politicians, they want to work their way through the benches and then they want to get their board position afterwards, or they become a minister. They need the money. If you lose your seat in politics, you're in a very sticky, tricky situation. So you can't always operate with integrity. But if you don't need the money.
But also my wife, you know, she's a great sounding board. And you sort of hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, talking, why do you need to do it? It's not a case that I need to do it, but I believe that the next mayor of London needs to be a leader, not so much a politician, needs to be a leader with a team of SMEs around him or her, as in subject matter experts, you know, a team of individuals, and myself as a leader when it comes to safety and security, which I think is the primal priority that everyone wants. You make an environment safe and secure, people start to enter that environment. They start to trust within that environment. They start to bring their families. They start to bring their businesses. They start to spend money.
And the reverse is true.
And the reverse is 100%. Well, the reverse is happening, right?
We're seeing it.
You look at the 3 points of trust that a government should give you, right? 3 points of trust that a government should give you is you should trust the government with your personal safety. Do you trust the government with your personal safety? Yeah, there's the answer. Do you trust the government with your personal health?
You can just start with me and just say, do you trust the government?
There's 3 pillars, but there's 3 main pillars here that I'm going to be working on in London, right, Pete, which is really, really important. Do you trust them with your personal safety?
No.
Okay, so you enter the camp, you don't even feel safe in the camp. Do you trust them with your personal health, knowing that if you get injured, you can't even get a doctor's appointment?
Nope.
They're forcing shit into your bodies when it comes to vaccination, when it comes to fucking prescribed medication. They're fucking making zombies out of us. The third one, do you trust the government with your personal finances?
All right, 3 easy answers for that. Personal finances, no, I keep my money in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Health, I have private healthcare because they're so fucking useless. And safety. And we've just finished a pilot project where we live in Bedford. We put private security into our town centre. I don't know if you heard about this, but every Saturday for 3 months as a pilot, which then extended to some Sundays, I paid for 10 security guards to be in the town because we had drug addicts, alcoholics scattered around the town. They were shoplifting. They were screaming at shoppers. They were making everyone's life a misery. Like, I think I have personally been the sovereign response to the failure of the state where I live in my life. I don't fucking trust them with anything. Like, I think...
There you go.
I think every part... It's a question I keep asking to people because, I went through a journey of being somebody who would defend the state. We need government, blah, blah, blah. I now think of it as a natural monopoly, but I come across statists who, argue back, we need the government. I say, just give me one thing that's got better because of government in the last 25 years. They still haven't had one person give me anything. There's no answer. Education's got worse. I mean, do you see the stuff this week about one of the school trusts? They were teaching kids that if that Reform are a fascist party.
Seen it.
Yep. So they've gutted the defence, which obviously would be something that bother you. They can't control the borders. The NHS is a complete failed sacred turd. Every single thing they aim control of, they failed. They failed every single direction, and it's the Conservatives and the Labour Party. So I don't trust them in anything.
And this is why myself as a team leader, going back to what I do, team building, team bonding. This is team building, team bonding 101. I'm almost, come into my camp, right? Do you trust your safety? No. Trust you with your health? No. Do you trust me with your personal finance? No. What are you going to do? You're going to leave the fucking camp, right? Hence, let's talk about the money that's coming, the eye-watering, astronomical amount of money that's leaving London, right? Of course, you're going into the camp. Well, what? No. Do I feel safe here? No. Normally, 2 out of those 3. If you get 2 out of those 3 and you go, do you know what? Personal safety, I feel sort of safe here. Personal health, not really, but I can go private. Personal finances, yeah. 2 out of those 3, these 3 pillars of trust, which is really, really important. You can go, do you know what? I'm going to stay in this camp and I'm going to make it work because I'm going to flip that third one into a positive. They're failing on all 3 of these metrics that builds communities, that builds trust, that builds unity, that builds, businesses, that builds families, you name it. So
did you see Rio Ferdinand?
Keeping it simple like this is what people understand and what I will implement within London first and foremost.
I want to talk to you about CAPE. Now, we're all taking security seriously in these modern days. Not only do we lock our front doors, but we're all using VPNs and encrypted messengers. But our cellular carrier still knows everything about us. Now, AT&T, Verizon and T-Mobile, they've all been caught selling or leaking our data. Now, this is where CAPE comes in. CAPE is a privacy-first mobile carrier built by experts in cybersecurity and national security. Now, they're not going to ask you for your name, your address, or your social security number. Whatever little data they record about you, they delete it anyway. CAPE protects you from SIM swaps, location tracking, and even voicemail hacking, and with features like SIM swap protection, enhanced signaling security, and encrypted voicemail. It is privacy from the SIM card up. CAPE is a premium cellular service without all the surveillance. Now, if you want to try CAPE out, you can get 33% off for the next 6 months. All you have to do is head over to cape.co/Peter. CAPE, the carrier built for privacy. So on this podcast, you are definitely hearing me talk about Bitcoin a lot. Well, why? We live in a really strange time with governments driving inflation with their reckless spending and endless money printing. There is a way out of this. There is a way to protect your money, and that is by stacking Bitcoin. I've made loads of shows about Bitcoin. You can go and research this, you can go and read the books, but the truth is, it is the hardest money ever created. If you are interested in protecting your financial future, it's time for you to get on the Bitcoin train. I've been stacking Bitcoin personally and through my businesses since 2017. It's protected me, it's secured my family's future, and it also strengthens all of my businesses. So if you want to start stacking Bitcoin, where do you do it? Well, for me, it's with Gemini. They're a fully licensed, full reserve exchange and custodian, so they give you a secure way for you to buy and own your Bitcoin. There's no risks and no funny business. So if you're serious about stacking Bitcoin the right way, head over to Gemini.com, which is GEMINI.com. Did you see what Rio Ferdinand said yesterday? He was on yesterday.
He's moved to Dubai.
Moved to Dubai. He's on LBC.
Yeah.
He just came out and said, the reason people like me are leaving is not to just avoid tax. People think it's that. It's that our tax is going towards everything. Nothing's working, and that's what our taxes is being pissed away. And that's every wealthy person I know. They don't mind paying tax. Do you know what? If this country was pointing in the right direction and things were getting better, and Rachel Reeves comes out and said, look, we need to have 2 people more, I'd hate it, but I'd pay it. I'd double my council tax. I'll pay it. But they're pissing it all away. It's just what he said. But things are, this is what Ria said. But things are falling apart, going wrong. Did you sit there and go, well, I'm paying all this tax, but it's really going towards the things that benefit the people that live here? And that's a big question that needs answering. I think a lot of us need the answer to that. I mean,
he's speaking to the people. That's high level, sort of generalized. Right,
breaking cover.
Listen, this is why, it's. But then you obviously dig a lot deeper into that. It goes,
But people are breaking
really strip
cover.
that down. Yeah, of course they are. But they're doing it because of those that's an element of him giving his money away, paying his taxes and working. Rio would have done. He's got a big family like myself, and he would have done what I done. Day on, day off for the government. Working day for the government, day off. 50% plus tax, when it comes to day on, day off. I don't mind working, let's say I have a working week, Pete. I don't mind working one day for the government, paying 20% tax. I would quite happily swallow that up and go, do you know what? I'll work a day for the government. I've got 5 kids. I've got a big family. I've got a business to run. I'll do a day for the government and I'll work 4 days for myself and the family. That I don't mind doing. Corporation tax. It jumped from 20% to 25%. It didn't go up 0.5%, 1%. No one fucking murmured a word. There were no protests on the streets. There was no uproar. There was no being the tolerant, going back to what you said, the tolerant, accepting Brits, we just swallowed that up. I was looking around going, it's going to kick off. They put the corporation tax up 5%. This isn't nothing. And I was just like, well, if we've lost.
But you know why?
Lost the internal fight for our businesses and for our families, because ultimately that's what it is. And for, for our homes, then we're so distracted. We must be so distracted with external bullshit. And it all is. All external, fucking pro-Palestine, fucking Ukraine. We're so distracted with external bullshit that when they come in and they go, boom, put the dagger in your side, we'll have that blood out of you.
But do you know what? Do you know why there wasn't a massive uproar on that?
Tell me,
20%. Because it goes back to what Reagan said. There are no corporate taxes. Every increase of tax on a company is passed on to the consumer. And so when they put 5% on 5 percentage points on corporation tax, they just raise their prices and we end up paying more. But our wages never keep up. And so that's why they did the national insurance rise, but that gets passed on to the consumers.
Correct.
Okay, if it can be, you might be a small business owner and go, I can't fucking do this. My customers can't pay anymore. But they always get passed on to the consumers. So there's no real corporation taxes.
But also you look at just those percentages. People say, oh, I own a company. I'm like, no, you don't. I say the government own a quarter of your company. They own a quarter of, but I'm the majority shareholder. When we break it down into business lingo, they're like, I'm the majority shareholder. I said, I think you'll disagree with that. What you do, you work your whole year, you raise an invoice to your silent partner who then takes the invoice and goes, no, rework that. That's not enough. You then resubmit an invoice to your silent partner who owns a quarter of your company. And if you don't pay that, they can take your whole company. Mm-hmm. So they actually own the company. They can take your whole company with all of your assets that's attached to that company. So from a business perspective, you're not the majority shareholder of your company. You're not the overruling voice. You're actually working for a government, busting your balls. That's the single most stressful process is tax returns. Well, that's what destroys businesses. That's what destroys families, arguments within family, the stress of, the accountants. The accountants are there just, to raise that invoice at the end of the year and then to throw it back at you, then to pay it and then to go, oh, no, actually, you owe us more than, well, I can't pay it. Well, listen, I'm going to take all of your fucking company. I'm going to take all of your assets. That's what I say to people. Do you realize what you're signing up to when you start a business in the UK? So not only have they got a fifth of your business now, they've got a quarter of your business. It doesn't matter if they had a tenth of your business. They would be the overall deciding factor whether you keep your company and your assets. Even if you get something wrong. I said now they're going right. We've got a quarter of the business. Soon it'd be bloody 30%. Soon it'd be 30%. It's just
it's even
the
worse
whole
than that.
Breakdown of that is just you look at it and you go from a business perspective. You go, fucking hell, I've got a raw deal here. So no wonder people are going as well. People are like that. Well, listen, I can go and literally own my own company. abroad, pay no tax or very little of, and which everyone, any decent businessman, Pete, wants to contribute to society. They actually don't mind paying tax.
But there's multiple taxes that people don't even realise. This is why when I get in the argument with the socialists, I say we're a socialist country. They say no, we're not. It's not like China. It's not like Soviet. The government doesn't own. I was like, it's backdoor socialism. They own us. They own us through regulation and taxation. But there's multiple essential taxes. I consider the amount I spend over $100,000 a year with my accountants across my businesses. That's a tax. It's a tax because
100%.
Because I have to do it to provide it. The HR money I now have to spend, that's another tax because of all the employment regulation. The energy costs we're paying is a tax because the energy costs are a choice. We have the highest energy costs in the world. So we're being hit in every direction. I mean, it's so hard to make money these days. Something like this is easy.
Spot on.
But when you're running a hospitality business, you're just scraping by. You're literally scraping by to pay for the government. Mm-hmm. And this is what a lot of people are actually missing. It's why I'm like, you just need to understand that all this too much government, it's not working for any of us.
But then you used your limited company to your advantage, which thousands of companies did during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Liquidate them, which that's why you open up a limited company. That's you can do that legally. You can do that in your favor. Fuck me, you do that against the government, then you're alienated. You are, it's like, well, no, that's why I got a limited company. That's why I didn't put stuff in my name, because I've got the ability that if things go wrong, if there's a global pandemic, even though we wouldn't even think about that beforehand, but if something goes wrong and I can't afford to pay, then I have the legal right to liquidate a company and to go through the process of shutting that company down, paying off a bit of the tax, and then away. Fuck me, try going through that process being in the limelight. It's almost like, no, I'm legally allowed to do it. So you're legally allowed to take everything from me. That's absolutely fine. And then I'm in the bad anyway. But when I make the company work to my advantage with the legal routes and policies that I'm allowed to implement, I'm alienated anyway. Yeah, exactly. So you're onto a lose-lose situation when you open up a business here in the UK.
So how do you win? Because I know a lot of... Look,
good question, mate.
There is a large group of people who like Sadiq Khan. Mm-hmm. There are a large group of people who can't stand the guy.
Who's the large group of people that like Sadiq Khan? Tell me, because I failed to see it.
A lot of leftists like him.
Mm-hmm.
They will vote for him as a leftist because he's a leftist. But there's also, I think, what's more interesting, what I'd like to talk about more, is there's a lot of people who cannot stand him.
Correct.
Who can't understand what's happened to London. I mean, I was watching a video the other day, and there was some young lad who jumped the barriers. Somebody filmed him jumping the barriers and not paying his to get on the underground. And the guy started filming him. The kid was talking, are you mad? Are you mad, bro? You fuck off. And there's a lot of people just fed up of this shit.
Yeah.
Just absolutely sick of it. But winning is hard. You're going into a battle to win against a tough guy, like a well-supported guy here. Like, how do you win it? Is it as an independent? Is it with a party? As an independent? I mean, I've considered that. It's hard as an independent. Like, how do you go and do this, Ant?
It is, but the time is right for it, mate. Don't know if you looked at the stats, but I think like 55%, even up to 60% of Londoners did not vote.
So it's getting people voting.
So it's getting people out. And also there's a level of corruption. Everyone sees what's on top of the table, but you got to fight fire with fire. There's a level of the level of dealings that happen under the table that I'm fully aware of. From a voting perspective, I'm fully aware of from a balloting. There's a gameplay. So the campaign isn't just about, these are my policy, this is what I'm going to do. It's about throwing a fucking shit ton of money at certain angles, certain aspects of the campaign, which you go, right, talk about delegation, right? Talk about a leader bringing SMEs on board, subject matter experts in whatever field that is, PR, voting. It's about having the finances, financial backing and the support to be able to go, right, you go and deal. You're working under the table here. You know, these 3 groups, you're working under the table, right? These 2 groups, you're going to work with me on this. You have to be really, really clever and strategic. Do you want me to tell you what politics is? Politics is military strategies, but instead of weapons, they use words. But the strategies that I see them so clearly, Pete. And when I mean so clearly, I'm like, that's a smoke and mirrors strategy. That's a distraction strategy. There's a fucking explosion gone on over there. Do I look over there? Do I fuck? I'm over there. I'm on the other flank because I know what's happening. I know all these tactics. I know all these strategies. And when you look at politics, it is military strategies 101, but just they've taken the weapons out and they're using words. And they're very, very clever with their words. And this is the battle as well that I'm going to have to fight, because I'm used to fighting battles, let's call it, with weapons. But now I have to actually fight my battles with my words. And I'm probably, not too finesse at the moment, let's say.
So you've got to be more precise. More
precise and more, but also you've got to keep your cards very close to your chest. A lot of people say, what are your policies then? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. My policies are so good. I believe they're so good that if you go, oh, here's my cards, all of a sudden when it comes to campaigning, oh, we're doing this, I'm like, I don't want to give the game plan away.
But you're talking about playing the game then?
No, because you'd be seen to play the game. This is what you got to do, right? You've got to be seen to play the game. Absolutely. And again, without giving too much away, the game's underneath the table. The fight's going on underneath here, mate. This is the game. This is the stage. This is the theatre. This is what we're doing. These are all the prim and proper words. These are all the proper tactics. These are all the political policies that are going through. Underneath here, that's where the fucking battle is. But a lot of people, they don't even think about that. They think, oh, I've got to work on the table here. I've got, everything. But it's like, trust me, 80% of it, even more than that, is happening underneath the table. So if you're cute and you're aware of putting out splinter cells underneath the table to work simultaneously with your show that you're doing on this theatre here, on the platform, on the stage, then that's what needs to be done. That's what I'm going to implement. And if the opposition or the enemy know about this, then they're going to be, trust me, you got to stay one step ahead. Not necessarily here. You just got to play the game here. You got to stay one step ahead underneath there, because they're counter with something. I guarantee you, I know already, a smearing campaign is already started with myself. Right? The word is out there. I'm running for Mayor of London at the moment independently. You mentioned a political party. Is there a strategy along the way that will boost my campaign? Is there political alignments that I could jump onto? Absolutely. Am I going to tell people about that? No, because I'm going to fucking hit them with it hard. I mean, I'm all in, mate. I'm all in.
Do you know a guy called Curtis Yarvin?
No.
We interviewed him twice. We've released 2 episodes with him, but that's not the one I'd recommend. He did one with Tucker Carlson. It's worth a watch. Because there's a couple of things that you've said that I think, you would find that interesting. So he's kind of he's an anti-democracy. He thinks democracy's failed. I don't 100% agree with him, but from that he moves forward and talks about government should be run like a company. And you essentially need a CEO. And when you've talked about you with your SMEs, it's similar language. But the other thing he talks about is, and again, just
to a certain extent, that's correct.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Subject experts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the other thing you mentioned earlier is when you talked about you don't want to have division, which I get, and I question myself on that sometimes. But he said politics is not about compromise or debate. It's about power. It's just about power. You have to go out and you have to be almost like what Donald Trump has done. It was all about power and dominating your opponents and winning through power. I think you certainly enjoy the interview.
I think power is a wretched thing. It distracts.
He's not talking about the abuse of power,
Yeah,
and wanted power.
That
power as a
being-
tool to
yeah.
dominate your opponent to win.
Yeah, I can understand that, but you haven't really got true power until you're in that position. So it's almost being smart and clever to work your way towards power. Because if I was going to tell you everything that I would implement when I'm in power, then that would probably ruin my campaign, or it would, create division where people go, oh, that's so. And again, you're only as powerful as you want to be when you're in that position. And this is what's really sort of intriguing about power is like right now I've got zero power. I'm talking to the people, I'm voicing my interests, I'm voicing certain policies. It's passion right now. It's passion, it's patriotism, it's, people can see that. And what they do is that it's hope at the moment. People are hanging on to hope. If I could tell you the amount of messages that come through saying, Ant, you're giving me hope. If you get in, Ant, I'm going to move back to London. So hope over power right now. And I think that that's really, really important, how you manage that hope, because ultimately what you're doing is you're manipulating and playing with people's feelings and mindset, and that can never be mistrusted or misguided. But when they see that you're passionate about it, regardless of your knowledge, when they see that you're passionate and it's coming from the fucking heart, right? That's where you touch people's hearts. That's where hope fucking really, really comes to the forefront. So at the moment, I can see what you mean about power, but at the moment, it's mine is quite a pure approach. It comes from passion. It comes from patriotism. It comes from people. This is another thing as well, mate. Like you, my ears on the ground. I can hear the screams. I can hear the fucking cries for help. I can feel the fucking vibrations of the vibrations getting more and more violent. We're on tender hooks right now, and people say to me, "Are we close to a civil war?" And I'm like, "No, we're close to we're in civil unrest." To a civil war, no, because that needs to be managed in a way and done in a correct manner. However, it could be easily structured in a way where civil war could be implemented with the right people backing it. So again, this is another territory that is very, very vulnerable at the moment, but with the right orders given to the right people, to the right crowd, then that could be a lot more easily implemented right now as we sit here face to face than it would have been a year ago.
Well, like I say, I mean, I'm only a couple of years older than you. I was born in 78. I've never known a time like this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, mate. It's crazy, but it's needed. I think we needed to get to this in order. If I'd have said 10 years ago I'm running for mayor of London, they would have gone, fuck off, and stick to your fucking filming, right? Your next special, you're great at what you do, teamwork, team building, positive mindset, you're a mindset sort of mentor. Stick to that. Stick to what you're best at. But now, 10 years on, saying that I'm running for mayor of London, that's and people supporting and backing and actually going, actually, this could work. That's where we've got to in such a short amount of time.
Do you think for you...
So that speaks volumes for itself about the fragility and the change, the drastic, not just change, the drastic change that people want.
Very important that you don't lose this, okay? This is your inheritance through Bitcoin.
Let Bitcoin rip. Don't rip up your Bitcoin. Set up inheritance with Casa.
Do you think for you, so you had your period where you're in the forces, then you had your period where you're making TV, and now you're in this period now where you're going to run for mayor. Was there almost something missing during the period where you're filming?
Yeah, no. Do you know what? Because when I'm doing my filming, so I'm still very much in my filming. You know, I'm filming a new series of, let's call it SAS Dubai. So through my own production company in the UAE. You know, we're 10 years in now since the first series. So, yeah, sort of like a 10-year anniversary, and it's going to blow in the UAE, like it did in the UK when I was involved, like it did in Australia when I was involved. But now, you know, I own a brand new revamped format running through my production company. It's going to be OSN have commissioned it. OSN are like the biggest sort of platform in the Middle East. It's going to go out to 22 regions across the Middle East. So it's a big commitment. But when I look, the reason why I love doing SAS and why I always go back to it, even after the Channel 4 sort of nonsense that happened, and you know, people like, Ant, just separate yourself from the franchise. It's obviously gone really toxic, really woke, really, you know, that sort of whole sort of era of when wokeness sort of just landed on the table overnight. And I was like, no, because what the recruits get out of that, the tools that I give them for them to become a better version of themselves, and then for them to change their lives, I'm providing a service. You know, I'm giving them my knowledge, my experience, through tough love. If you look at it through me just running a boot camp and you just see me screaming and shouting as a disciplinarian, then you're probably just watching mundane TV. You know, you switched off from work and you're just like, oh, this is sort of, you don't have to think about it. People are just getting thrashed. But when you look deep into that show and what I do as an instructor, as a mentor, is I make people realize what they're capable of. Right? And that's a powerful tool. When you make people realize what they're capable of, and the proof is in the pudding. You know, you look at all the recruits I've taken through. I challenge you to go and find one of them that says that I haven't changed their outlook on life. You know, the people that have got towards the back end of the course. And it's that service, mate. It goes back to that service, serving people. And this is the biggest calling, is going back to serve the people of my country, of my capital. So there's nothing missing in between, because it's great to revisit that.
It's all service, though, isn't it?
But it's all service.
But there's an interesting contradiction with what we've got from our political elite over this last 20, 30 years, in that you spend a lot of time kind of not accepting bullshit, calling people out and making them, as you said, realize what they're capable of. Mm-hmm. We've kind of done the opposite in our country. We've made people realize what they can complain about, and we've kind of done the opposite.
Yeah, it has gone. We are in
like victim culture,
decline, victim culture, victim mentality.
Like, how would you deal with someone coming in with a victim mentality to you?
I put them through a process of accountability, of being honest with themselves. I'd sit them down first and foremost, and I'd hear them out. And what I take from that conversation is, oh, poor me, this happened to me. You know, it's because of this, it's because of that. And then I'd completely flip the next session into, tell me what's shit about you, because I'm going to do it if you don't. What? Well, tell me your faults, because all you've told me about is how you're hard done by, you know, you're entitled to this has happened to you, not because of you. There's a whole process that I would go through. And again, on SAS, it's great because I've got them for 10 days. I see that straight from the off, right? Their attitude, their demeanors, hence why we get them in and talk to them. It's if you can be completely honest with yourself, which is the most courageous thing you can do, Pete. People say to me, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done? And I go back to a moment where I just tore myself apart. You know, I found myself isolated. No one wanted to work with me. No one wanted to be around me. This was when I was very young, when I first joined the military. You know, I just wanted to be the best at everything. And I was. I got best recruit, best PT, but I'd tread over your fucking head to get to that fucking trophy, right? So ultimately, then when I got to my unit, and still like, front of the runs, I wasn't pushing people behind me. I was just like boom, boom, boom. Thank you, medals, trophies. Then you find yourself isolated. No one wants to work with you. No one wants to be around you. The people feel threatened, and So when I sat down, I remember sort of sitting down on a step, thinking, why are fucking people getting promoted over me? Why are people going on the courses that I want? Why am I sat by myself? And I strip myself, because you're a fucking egotistical twat. You want to be the fucking best at everything. You're willing to fucking, you're in the army, and it's meant to be the ultimate teamwork, the ultimate unity, the ultimate coming together. But yet you're willing to fucking tread on everyone, to fucking push them out the way to get to the finish line first. And I remember ripping myself apart and going, fucking hell, I need to fucking get my ego in check. Maybe don't be the best at everything, but try and be the best at your job. Try and be the best teammate you can be. When I ripped myself apart, and it was so hard to do because you want to bat it off and you want to, but the problem's right there in front of you to be solved. And if you can go through that process of every now and then, and you have to do it consistently, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You subconsciously do it. I debrief myself all the time. Fucking hell, I could have done that. Yeah, maybe I was a bit harsh on that, or I didn't listen to him. I should have listened to him, because actually he's right about what he said there. And my ego took away all my, my pride of being a leader sort of came into play. Right, I need to get that in check. I need to put this in check. And when you can do that to yourself, what the flip on that is? You have no problem calling people out and doing it to other people. Because I know they can come at me, then I can go, yeah, do you know what? You're right about that. Yeah, I did approach that wrong. I get it all the time, man. You voiced that a bit wrong. And I look back and I go, yeah, do you know what I did? What do you recommend? Maybe talk, do it like this, this, and this, and this. Or your approach towards leadership, when you were going, no, let's just get through it. It's like, whoa, take a step back. Listen to your muckers.
Is it like an excellence without ego?
Yeah, an excellent. But ego, no, the ego is really important. It's needed. The excellence with your ego in check.
With your ego in check.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. And it's almost as well as that. The people talk about the pursuit of excellence. You get to that excellence, and then, because I think it's very important that you realize that it's not just a pursuit of excellence. You can get to that excellence. People who function, high function operators of whatever they do, they've reached that excellence, hence why they're in the top tier of what they do. Then after that, it's just about fine tuning it. And it's the fine tuning. There's not a next stage, the fine tuning. It's what have I learned today? How can I do better? How can I be better? How can I take a 0.1% out of today, boom, and put it in there to progress in a way that's working, where the trajectory is just on a slight incline and not on a downward slope.
But can that bring an inner peace with it?
No, it brings an inner motivation, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, an inner motivation to be better. So
sorry, can I just go back to that? Because what I mean by that is, when you talked about your early days, you wanted to win everything, and you kind of ended up isolated.
Yeah.
If you can avoid that isolation, it becomes a more peaceful progression of excellence rather than I don't know.
It does.
Than a burden.
No, it does. But then you're sort of, you're having to put in the hard work to change those aspects of you, because they're just naturally been, how you've been brought up, how that, that's been ingrained into you. So you're going against that fucking grain. So it's, and I'm thinking, I know I've got to do this, but I want to be the first through that finish line, So there is an element of peace once you succeed as a team, as a collective, as a group, but there's always that fight against who you naturally are, what's naturally in your DNA. It's almost like there's a little grind on the stone, if that makes sense. So it's do you know what? It is becoming at peace with that, I suppose. Yeah. So there is, when you look at it like that, but it's fucking hard work, mate. But then I look at things that are hard work and I think to myself, well, going back to the old saying, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? And this process that I go through, people talk about, you know, what's your purpose? And, you know, I don't have an external purpose. I have external goals. And I have external milestones that I want to get to. But my internal purpose, which I absolutely love, that I will never achieve, is to become the best version of who I can be, knowing that I never get there. Because the moment you get there, you reach perfection, and that doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
So I'm constantly chasing that fucking carrot, you know, taking a little near, knowing that I'll never be able to grab it, on becoming a better version of who I am. And that's a lifelong process that will never end until I take my last breath, but I'll never get there.
Is your wife ever like, just have a day off?
Yeah, she does, but it's one of those, you know, we've got such a good relationship, myself and my wife, because she's like, you know, she loves just being with the children and, you know, watching them grow and really, you know, looking after the family unit. I love when I finish work, you know, I'm fully in with the family, but she's very good at looking me in the eye and going, like with the Mayor of London and stuff. She said to me, it's like being back in it's going to be like going back in the military. And I said, yes. And she went, well, you do realize, you know, when you're in the military, you prioritize the military. And I did. You know, I hate to say it. I'm being honest with myself. You know, I prioritized the military over my family. I had to. I had no choice. They told me I was going to Afghanistan, even though I was volunteering for shit as well. But, you know, if my wife said, oh, come home then, I'd be like, no, I've got to go. You know, so the priorities were with that. And it's the last 10 years I've managed to prioritize my family. And yeah, I just looked at her and I said, yes, it's bigger than us, darling. It's bigger than the family.
It is. I keep looking at my son.
It's bigger than us. And she's so good and support, and she's like, go and do what you need to do. We're here.
Is it because, one, you've got a great wife, she's a great mother,
Mm-hmm.
you know the kids are going to be fine?
Yes, mate. So important.
But is it? I'm wondering if it's a similar thought I've had. It's all those other kids who aren't going to be fine, who haven't got it, they're not set up, they might not have a dad around, their parents are struggling to get by. It's like, you know your kids are fine. It's those millions of others that maybe you can help shift part of the world, part of this country, to make it better for them.
100%. And
Yeah.
also the screams and the cries.
Yeah.
100%. The screams and the cries and the calls for help that you hear, or the lack thereof. When you look and you go, do you know, you're not even asking, but this is just normal for you. It's like, no, this is where, again, I could sit on my hands and live my lovely life, but my moral compass does not allow me to do that. And that's why I know that regardless of the outcome, you know, I will put my everything into this, and it's coming from a pure of heart. And again, not of power, not of, you know, fucking greed, not of, you know, revenge of wanting to get my capital back, or
Service.
It's service.
Yeah. I'm so wondering what's going through your head at the moment, Connor.
A lot. A lot.
Do you think your dad needs to go do SAS?
That's for sure. That's
Mate,
for sure.
you should, yeah. Mate, listen, come over to Dubai.
I'd be
I'll
tempted.
thrash you in the desert.
Yeah, I need to get rid of this.
Well, mate, that will get rid of that for you.
Yeah, I need a little bit more discipline in my life. I think I've had it too easy.
Mate, listen, it's one of those, when, you know, I say there's no growth and comfort. You know, when you feel comfortable, you know, when you're getting complacent, you know, when you're putting on weight, you know, your body is a fucking phenomenal fucking computer that can answer every single question if you tap in the fucking right information, i.e. be honest with yourself. And you can just, boom, it's phenomenal. It's like, I wake up sometimes, you know, right, fucking hell, I need to go for a run. Just run up the stairs and I'm a bit out, right, clear the lungs. You know, I listen to my body. People go, what's your training regime? I'm like, whatever my body tells me. You know, I go through moments of running. You know, I go through moments like right now, you know, I've shifted 10 kilograms and I'm I'm looking skinny as hell, and I'm going through the process of like doing military circuits, of sweating it out every morning, of CV, cardio. I'm not worried about muscular build or and then probably in a few months' time, I go, fuck it out, I'm looking a bit skinny now. I'm going to start hitting the big weights again. I just listen to my body, because it cannot. The beautiful thing about the human body, mate, is that you cannot lie to yourself. Right? You can lie to yourself, therefore you'll live a lie. Mm-hmm. But you cannot lie to yourself, because the truth is here. And you can ignore it, you can fucking bat it off, you can try and suppress it, you can try and hide it, but it will always come to the fucking forefront. And if you don't fucking deal with it, manage it, and action it, then you're just gonna live on fucking autopilot, and you're gonna live a lie. That's what I say to people: lie to yourself, you're gonna live a lie, and the only person that can find you out is yourself.
Yeah, and the older you get, the more true that becomes.
Fucking true, mate. It's true. And listen, don't get me wrong. There's something that I go, but I've got to a stage in my life where I'm just, if I fucking dread doing it, then I'm just like, just fucking do it, and because it's like, just get it out the way, get it done. You can put it off as much as you can, but that fucking dread, is still gonna be there, and that's when you ultimately, if you ignore that, that's when you live with regrets.
Yeah. Anything you want to ask on? Man of the moment. I think you should do SES. Can't get that fucker out of the bed in some mornings. He's good. He's a hard worker. He keeps me in check more than most people.
Yeah, do you know what? I've got a son. I've got 3 sons and 2 daughters. But my son, he's 16. He goes to Millfield. He's a keen rugby player.
Good school, yeah.
And he's fucking 5'10". I'm like, he's like this. He's just, and I've been training him for the last sort of 3 to 4 years when he's 13. So, and just seeing the development, and and you say about keeping it, them keeping you in check. He's like, he's getting to the point now where I'm like, Dad, do you want to hit the gym? And I'm like, do you want to go for a run?
Well, you wait till, Connor's in his 20s now, and he, it really gets to me sometimes, because I'm not very good at handling it, but he keeps me in check.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And he will say right now, this is probably me sounding like patronising, but it's actually a compliment. Yeah. Like, there's nobody more honest to me than that. Yeah. And then him.
That's what he is you. You got his
he's half
fucking
me.
DNA's all through you. He's got his fucking, it structures you. You're gonna have that fucking bond for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's again, holding each other accountable is the purest and most truthful form of life. It's fucking brilliant. I love it. It's uncomfortable, but then you fucking embrace that uncomfortability and you make it work for you.
Well, maybe we'll come out and do SAS.
Be careful what you wish for, mate. Be careful what you wish for.
Probably need it. Look, good luck, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with the running for mayor. I think Sadiq Khan is a fucking moron. I think he's an embarrassment to this country. I think he lacks courage, conviction. I think he's a bullshitter. Accountability. I think he's a bullshitter.
Integrity.
I think I love London. I think it's the best city in the world, and I know I'm biased. I'm not from London. I live in Bedford, but I love it.
It lacks a motivation, mate. I don't feel the energy that I used to feel when I come into London. I don't feel the motivation. There needs to be a mindset shift. There needs to be, I need to re-motivate, which I'm good at, right? They talk about team building, team bonding on a bigger scale, right? Which we spoke about. But the motivation is, well, we need to motivate Londoners. Where does the motivation come from? Where does it come from? Business, family, goals, milestones, whatever you want to call them. So that's something that we spoke about that I'll implement. But just, remember the old saying, the streets are paved in gold.
Yep.
I don't fucking feel that anymore.
No.
So I'm going to bring that back and bring that back through the energy that London once had, and through the motivation of wanting to be in London that we once had. So, this isn't just a case of making London safe and secure. I'm going to fucking bring back the energy, whether that's through nightlife, whether that's through, you just bring in, that motivation that people go, the moment I step into London, because I don't feel that anymore.
Well, if you talk to tourists coming in and their experience, it's not always great. I went out to Paris recently, and I was chatting to an American lady. She'd come over, and she was off to Paris. And she said, London doesn't feel like it used to. She said, I had a great time. Yeah, I went shopping and went to the restaurants, but she said, something's off. And so, look, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you do it. I really do. And if we can do anything to help, you can just reach out to us and come back on and talk to us when you're ready to talk about policy.
Absolutely, mate. I will be back on once I get good traction. So I'm going to start hitting the ground running. A couple of years out. The mayoral elections aren't until May of 2028. So you'll see me hitting the streets hard May of next year.
It's not long.
2-year run up to it. Obviously, the last year is really scrutinised. That's when the budget's scrutinised and everything that you do. So I'm going to make some good groundwork, put in some good groundwork before then, and just let people know that I'm there for them. This is, I want to open up London back to its people. I want to make it affordable. I want to make it accessible. I want to make it safe. And I'm going to build the best team of SMEs around me to ensure that.
Well, good luck, man.
Thanks, Pete. You're a gentleman.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll see you all soon.